All right, folks, it's Bass Action back in action. On this page of notes, what we are going to do is we're going to look at angle addition and angle bisector and how we can combine both our geometry and our algebra. So let's jump into our first example here. As we read our first example here where it says W is on the interior of angle HUT, this connects to what we were talking about in class and the real crucial element for our purposes of the word interior. What we're going to have to do is we're going to draw a picture for this, similar to how we drew a picture for between and midpoint. And when we jump in and we draw this picture, what we're going to start with is we're going to draw that angle HUT. So we're going to draw an angle HUT, any size you want. You could make it obtuse, I just never do. So I'm going to draw this angle HUT. And when it says that W is on the interior, it means it's somewhere in here. It doesn't matter where we put it. Similar to what we did for between, we want to put our point W just somewhere closer to one side or the other. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to connect that and we're going to draw a ray that allows us to divide this angle into two pieces. Then what we can do is we can start labeling this picture based on what we did for our segment addition. So let's take a look. It says that angle W or HUT, that's going to be our whole angle. So this whole angle here is 6x plus 71. And then it's going to tell us that WUT, you've always got to read these carefully, is 7x plus 4. And HUW is 12x minus 11. Similar to what we saw for segment addition, we can certainly understand that this small angle right here plus this small angle is going to equal our whole angle. So let's practice writing that geometrically so that when we get to our proof chapter, it's a little bit easier for us. So we're going to start with the angle HUW. So the measure, remember we use our m's when we write equations, the measure of angle HUW plus the measure of the other small angle, angle WUT, is going to equal the measure of the whole angle, HUT. From here, just like what we did with our segment addition, we're just going to substitute now from our picture. So we're going to have a 12x minus 11. We're going to have our 7x plus our 4 equals our 6x plus 71. Let's go ahead and do our algebra here. So we're going to have a 19x minus our 7 equals our 6x plus 71. Kick everything to the appropriate sides. We're going to have our 13x. We're going to have a 78 on the right-hand side. So we get that x, take this up here, we're going to get our x is 6. Now, as we mentioned before, we always want to go back and read what the problem asks us to find. This time it asks us to find the measure of angle HUT. So that's what we want to do. We need to substitute. We can't stop with the x equals 6. So we find the measure of angle HUT. So we've got the measure of angle HUT, and we're going to substitute that 6 in there. So we're going to have our 6 times our 6 plus our 71, and we get our final answer of 107 degrees. So the key word on this problem is interior. So other than that, you're going to handle this very similar to what you did for your segment addition. Now, let's take a look at our next example. And then when we read our next example, we get that ray UW bisects angle, and you'll note that I actually highlighted the symbol there, angle, HUT. This time it only asks us to solve for x, so we're going to be able to stop a little sooner. So now when we draw our picture, we're still going to start with drawing the big angle first. Oops, didn't mean for that one. We're still going to draw that big angle, HUT. Then we're going to draw in that ray UW, but since it says it bisects it, what we want to do is we want to make sure that it looks like it's dead center. This is similar to what we do for our midpoint. And then we're going to mark those two angles congruent because our definition of an angle bisector says that it divides it into two congruent angles. Now let's go ahead and label the picture. It tells us that angle HUT, gives us something about the big angle again, is 6x plus 71 again. And it tells us that WUT, it's easy to get tongue-tied, is 7x plus 4. So what we need to recognize is that these two small angles are congruent, but These two are clearly not. So we're going to combine the idea of the angle bisector that gives us the congruent pieces with the idea of angle addition. And sometimes what students like to do is when they see that something is congruent, they just like to rewrite that same notation. So I could put another 7x plus 4 on there if I wanted. So let's write our geometric statement again. Remember the two small angles. So we'll start with the measure of angle HUW. And we're going to add that to the other small angle, the measure of angle. Oh, I just caught this. Sorry, you probably already did. That was supposed to be a W. I think my pen kind of hiccuped. WUT is going to equal the measure of the big angle HUT. Now let's go ahead and do a substitution. We could substitute that 7x plus 4 into both places, but since I know these are the same, what I want to do on this one is show you something just slightly different. What I could do is I could recognize the fact that it's the same amount twice. So I could make things a little bit quicker for myself if I wanted, and I could write it like this. It's just a choice. Now, since everything on the right side does not divide by 2, I would actually not divide by 2 at this point. I would go ahead and I'd still distribute that 14x plus 8, 6x plus 71. I'm going to move everything to their appropriate sides. I'm going to get an 8x equals a 63. And this one's not going to give me a nice answer. So I can leave this as a fraction. This is actually what I would consider the best answer, but we can also type it into our calculator and get a decimal approximation. But this is the answer that I would really want you to do. Okay, I've got another reflection piece here at the bottom. These reflection pieces are really important for helping us connect our ideas, so don't blow these off. What we want to do is compare and contrast these examples with the examples 1 and 2 on page 8, so you'll have to flip back in your note packet, and the examples 3 and 4 on page 10. So just do a little comparison of all these, and then we're going to do, we'll kind of discuss this and share in class.